Bills Mafia. What is going on? JT here. So, divisional round. It's been 25 years. So it's been a while. But listen, it's shook out a little bit differently than I think a lot of us had kind of hoped to see the Steelers in the divisional rounds, just because we kind of would have marked that down as a much easier win. Although there are no easy wins in the playoffs, but for the most part, if we had to look at the teams that we could still play, the Steelers were probably the one that we would have liked to see the most, and mainly just because of the way we match up against them. Obviously, Tennessee and Baltimore, they both have really good run games, which has kind of been a weak spot for us all year. Although I think we did a pretty good job against the Colts for most of the game. I know they ripped off a couple big runs late in the game to kind of up those numbers a little bit, but I think for the most part, initially we kind of did a pretty decent job for how good their run game is and how good their offensive line is. So, looking at the Ravens, it's definitely going to be a tough matchup. Although, not one that I'm necessarily afraid of. Although, Baltimore is a very, very good team with a very, very good quarterback. And they have a lot of just really strong pieces defensively and offensively. So, they definitely are a tough matchup for us. Going into it, listen. On defense, we need to contain Lamar Jackson at all costs. That's really it. I mean, I understand that J.K. Dobbins and old Gus Edwards, is going to do well in the run game either way. They are built for that power running. They'll run up the middle, they'll run to the perimeter. But I think what we really, really need to do is we need to contain Lamar Jackson. It's those second reaction plays from Lamar Jackson where he just rips off 60-yard touchdown runs that we can't allow to happen. I would rather give J.K. Dobbins better yards per carry average if we can contain Lamar Jackson. I know everybody wants to say that we need to stop the run and make Lamar Jackson beat us with his arm. I don't think there's much we can do to make them abandon the run game. We tried it against the Colts, and they knew they could run the ball, so they kept doing it, even when they were down by a lot of points. The only time they had to throw the ball was when they were down by 3 with very little time and no timeouts left. That was it. That was the only time they threw the ball and felt like they had to. The rest of the game, they ran it. I mean, they were down 2 scores. They were running the ball, and they were ripping off big runs on us. So I think it's going to be hard for us to really stop them from running the ball and really steering them away from running the ball. So I think what we need to do is contain Lamar Jackson. Keep him in the pocket when he is throwing the ball. Make sure when they're doing those options that he's getting covered. So we need to have someone set that edge, and they need to stay there. They need to not bite on that play action. And if J.K. Dobbins gets the ball and goes up the middle, that's fine. But as long as Lamar's not ripping off 20-yard runs that are on the perimeter because everyone bit on the inside fake, then I think we'll be in better shape. The focus is stopping Lamar. Like I said, we're not gonna be able to make him throw. They're gonna run. They're gonna run their offense. They're gonna keep running their offense. It doesn't matter. I don't think what the scoreboard is looking at. Unless we can get like 3 scores up on them, maybe get like 17 plus points up on them. Maybe they will start to really throw the ball. I just don't think we're gonna be able to push them to that. Although what I will say is if we can get the ball into their hands in a scenario where they need like a 2-minute drill or something like that, Lamar Jackson does struggle working the sidelines a little bit. So in a situation where he needs to throw the ball and get out of bounds, get those receivers out of bounds, I think we'll be in a good shape. So, if I had to choose, if they're making a 2-minute drill, I feel pretty comfortable that our defense can be able to step up and stop them from doing too much. So that means the half end of the game, we should be able to show up when they have to throw it and get that ball out of bounds. But you're still going to see a lot of runs to the perimeter, trying to get out of bounds and keep running the ball. All right. So yeah, our defense needs to step up big. I don't know if we're going to see the same amount of nickel as we've been seeing. I don't know if they're going to look to spy him, Lamar Jackson with Taron Johnson, or if they're going to run AJ Klein, Matt Milano, Edmonds, and have 3 linebackers up instead of their normal 2 with the nickelback. I would be interested to see what they plan to do. I think they did a lot of Milano spy last game. And there was a couple times where Milano got burned pretty bad, or he got juked pretty bad because it's tough. I mean, Lamar in space and open field, he's a tough tackle, and that's just how it is. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's going to work the middle of the field when he does throw the ball. He's going to hit Mark Andrews. He's going to look every once in a while for a Marquise Hollywood Brown deep ball, but for the most part, he's going to drop that ball in the middle of the field, and they're going to run the ball, and that's their game plan. On offense, though, looking at it, it's going to be a weird game. So the Ravens do a lot of blitzing, a lot. We're pretty good against the blitz. Josh Allen is pretty good against the blitz. So looking at it, they are going to blitz, and we need to make sure that Josh is capable of identifying the blitzers, identifying the blitz package, and identifying when they do drop into coverage. He's going to need to be on his toes all game. If he looks out there and sees coverage, they're going to shift things. Like, they're going to send pressure from different locations than the look looks like. So he needs to be on his toes for that for sure. But I think that if they blitz and they leave Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary, TJ Yeldon, if they're trying to man all of our receivers and running backs up all game, they just can't do it. You saw what happened last week. They tried that same thing against Tennessee, and obviously they won the game. But like, A.J. Brown was feasting in the first half. Like, Marlon Humphrey was one-on-one with A.J. Brown all game, and it was rough for him without help. So I just don't think that Marlon Humphrey or Patrick Peterson are just going to be able to travel with those guys all day, because you can't cover the Diggs all day. You can't do it. You saw it happen in so many games this year where they just try to man someone up on Diggs, and it doesn't matter. You know, there's a reason he has 120 receptions on the year and 1,500 receiving yards. You just can't do it. Cole Beasley in the slot, I don't know who you're going to man up on him, especially if it's a linebacker. I just don't understand what your play is going to be. So as long as Josh can identify his reads and identify those blitzers, make the right play, move to the right side of the field, whether he has to scramble out of the pocket or stay in the pocket, I just think we'll have a good game on offense. I think that it's going to be a punch for punch kind of game. I think the score is going to get run up. I think the offenses are going to really feast. I think both offenses operate the weakness of the other's defenses, and I think you're going to see a lot of points on the board for sure. I am worried about this game just because a lot of the weather things are up in the air and things like that. So we'll see how it actually settles out and everything like that. I would feel a lot more comfortable if Moss was in the lineup, but TJ Yeldon's a good running back. Like I said in the video about the Colts wrap up, he's a good running back. I know you guys have seen him a couple times from the ball when he's got a few chances, but he's a really good running back, and he's a really good receiver. So I think he'll bring something good to the offense as well. And if we do move on, when we do move on, Devontae Freeman I think will bring a little bit of a dynamic addition to our backfield as well. So TJ Yeldon I think is going to be good. I would like to see Devin Singletary do well as well, because we are going to need to run the ball, especially if the weather's bad. I think that Josh and the receivers are going to be able to operate pretty well. I don't think it's going to be so bad that they can't throw the ball. But, the Kansas City game, Josh looked a little bit rough in the weather. He adjusted to it a little bit later, but initially it was rough. I mean, he was sailing some of those balls. It was obviously a different situation where it was wet and soaking wet, and the ball was disgusting. The freezing weather's a little bit different. The ball is a little harder. But he still needs to make sure he's putting touch on that ball, because it's like throwing a brick at people. Break Cole Beasley's fingers. But I think that if the offense can make the most of its chances and the defense can just come up with a couple big stops and maybe a turnover, if they're punching that ball and raking that ball out, we can get a pick, that would be huge. I think the turnover differential is going to be the biggest part of this game. If one team gets like one turnover and the other gets zero, I think whoever gets that turnover, it's going to be kind of that tipping point for the game. But we also need to keep in mind that they're going to be going for those as well. So like, they punch that ball out. Like, Diggs and Cole, they do a really, really good job of dropping to the ground. When they say they're not going to get yards and they're just going to get hit, they give themselves up. And I think that's going to be something they really need to do. But at the same time, I think they need to make sure that they are fighting for some of those extra yards. This is going to be a tight game, and every yard is going to count. So sometimes they're going to need to give themselves up, make sure they don't give that ball up. And other times they're going to need to make sure they get to the sticks, or they make sure they get that 1 or 2 extra yards to get us in better field position. Okay, so the thing I'm probably most nervous about is special teams. Because I was talking about Tyler Bass last week. He's got ice cold water in his veins. Well, that's nothing compared to Justin Tucker. If Justin Tucker is coming out to kick a field goal, like, I'm going to put those points on the board. Like, he's a scary kicker, and he doesn't miss, and he doesn't get, nervous. He kicks the ball and it goes through the uprights, and that's just how he is. And Justin Tucker is one of the best kickers in football right now, and he's probably pretty up there all time. He's phenomenal, and I do not want any of this game to come down to his leg. because that's terrifying to me. And that's just it. I mean, Justin Tucker is literally one of the best people on their football team. It's a fact. He's phenomenal. At his position, he's pretty much unmatched in the NFL right now. So we got to be careful. And I think another thing we need to really, really focus on is, I know Andre Roberts, he needs to make sure he does not, muff any punts or kicks. But we need to win this field position battle, because we were getting just destroyed last week. Like, we were starting backed up every single drive in the first half. And that can't happen. We can't be backed up against this Ravens defense all day. It's gonna be too hard to move the ball down the field consistently if we're starting within our own 10 every drive. So we need to make sure we get a good handle on that field position battle right from the jump. Because if we keep getting backed up, it's gonna be a long day. Other than that, though, honestly, this is going to be a good game. I'm excited to see Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen version 2. So, we lost by 7 points, and we had a chance to make a game-winning drive in our last matchup, and I think it was Patrick Peterson broke up that pass to John Brown. I think that if our defense can do just as good of a job as they did last time, which I know I was asking a lot, they did a really, really good job containing the Ravens offense. If they can do that, I think our offense has come so far that we win this game, no problem. But our defense isn't the same as it was last year. A lot of the same guys, but it's just not the same, especially against the run. Sometimes I just think, and I just miss Star Lotulelei, because him, like, as a stopgap in the center of our defensive line was very, very effective. And I know people didn't really like him that much, or they thought he was overpaid, but I think people are seeing this year how much we do miss Star Lotulelei in the middle of our line, because we are getting gashed all over when they're running the ball. What's going to happen, though, is we need to be careful, and we need to make sure we fill our gaps, and the defense needs to be disciplined is what needs to happen. So they do a really good job of, pulling people down into the gaps, hitting Mark Andrews over the middle because the linebackers are pinching. So everybody needs to stay really disciplined, whoever's on the spy, whoever's in coverage, whoever's getting those run stops, those gaps, they just need to be really, really disciplined. And they need to really, really, really contain Lamar Jackson in that pocket while not allowing him to take off up the middle of the field, because some teams do a really good job of contain, but then they leave a just giant field of green grass in front of him up the middle. So he'll cut up through the defensive tackles and won't be touched for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 yards to the end zone sometimes. And it's hard for those DBs to adjust and get to him. He's so fast and he's so elusive. So the defensive line, our front seven, needs to really, really, really play disciplined all game, or Lamar Jackson is going to shred our defense all day. So that's really it. Everyone needs to be disciplined on defense, and the offense needs to be. I would like to see the offense just capitalize on everything that the defense can give them, and I would like to see Josh test some of those corners in man coverage with Diggs and Cole Beasley, John Brown, Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis is a big guy. He can go up and get those balls. So depending on who's matched up with him, Dawson Knox on a linebacker, Dawson Knox is going to be able to high point that ball away from a linebacker. So you really need to test these DBs, and you need to make them, if they're going to play man coverage all day, you need to make them man coverage all day. Because if those dudes get any separation at all, you get Diggs the ball, you get Cole Beasley the ball, John Brown the ball, and if they miss that tackle, there's no one else to tackle them. If they're not going to have, even if they have a single high safety, they ran cover zero on us a lot last year. So if there's no single high safety, you get Diggs the ball in man coverage one-on-one, he's gone. Even Cole Beasley, gone. John Brown, gone. Gabriel Davis, gone. So it's going to be a tough game. I am excited. I think it'll be probably just as stressful as last week's game. So, keep that in mind when you're watching. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to say this game is probably going to end, we'll say, Bills 42, Ravens 35. I think it's going to be a close one-score game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring, close one-score game. And I'm pretty nervous about it. It's going to be nerve-wracking. Not that I'm nervous that we're going to lose, or I think we're going to lose, or I'm upset we got the Ravens because I don't think we can beat them. That's not it. I'm just nervous because it's going to be a really, really tough game against the Ravens, who are hot right now. They match up pretty well against us on offense to our defense, and obviously it's vice versa on our side as well. But I hate that the Browns are walking into Kansas City, and I'm a little bit iffy on the Browns. I was really, really hoping the Ravens would play Kansas City and we would play the Steelers because the Ravens would give the Kansas City Chiefs a game, you know? And I'm just a little bit nervous Kansas City's going to walk over the Browns and walk in to the AFC Championship game like they had a bye week and then played a bad team. And that's what worries me, I think, the most. So, yeah, I mean, there's my prediction. Sorry, like I said, I'm trying to keep it around the 10 to 12 minute mark, but I get a little bit long winded. So, if you like this and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe. Also, comment down below what you guys think the score is going to be. And also, critiques, comments, complaints, so I can get better content to you guys. But yeah, that's it. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and see some Bills football on Saturday evening.